I'm really happy to talk to Heidi Nel today. Heidi, tell us a little bit more about you and what you do.
Hi, so great to connect with you, Stephanie, and to be here. My name is Heidi Nel. I'm the COO and Chief of Staff for New Theory Ventures, which is a venture capital studio that prioritizes investment into women and diverse change makers who are entrepreneurs, also leading purpose-driven brands. So we're sort of deeply interested in and committed to proving out business models that prioritize both profit and purpose.
Oh, Heidi, it sounds just perfect. It sounds amazing. Heidi, tell us a little bit more about your
Yeah.
journey. How did you end up in this job? And also tell us a little bit more about uh, your company and especially what you invest in. Give us an example.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with my journey. It's been non-linear for sure. So I actually studied modern dance and performing arts in high school. I went to a performing arts high school that's also part of a university here in the US. So I was really interested in storytelling and entertainment growing up and sort of in the very beginning of my career, but also kind of coming from South Africa and growing up there, understood sort of how profound art is in sort of transcending barriers and differences and uniting people and bringing people together. And so built a career for myself kind of at that intersection of media and story and film and advocacy. I spent the beginning of my career in Los Angeles, working for production companies, and then Lionsgate, which is a film studio that produces and distributes international films and TV and all of that. And then had an opportunity right after President Obama was elected to come to Washington, D.C., which is not kind of at all where I had envisioned myself previously. But I had a mentor at the time who noticed that I cared a lot about social impact and making a difference, and said if I really wanted to make a difference, I would learn more about politics. And I think he was right in that regard. And so took a job opportunity to come to Washington, D.C., where I could parlay my marketing skill set into public affairs. So really working to, build and execute on and implement public engagement campaigns that instead of leading a consumer to buy something, would engage an audience member to take an action that could affect a local, state, or federal policy. Did that for a little while, but really missed the storytelling component and the art side of my work, and was able to connect with a couple of filmmakers who had a really incredible film about the epidemic of sexual assault in the US military, and worked with them for a couple of years building a public engagement campaign that used film as a vehicle to engage audiences and ultimately spur collective action and make lasting social change. Through that film, we worked with different members of Congress, did a lot of kind of local mobilization work, but also dedicated work here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., and used that film as a mechanism to help catalyze the passage of over 30 pieces of legislation that called for the outcomes that the film called on, which ultimately was removing the adjudication of sexual assault from the chain of command. And that was really my first foray into that type of work. And then I spent 10 years doing that. So working with filmmakers, working with, content creators like YouTube social impact team, using content and storytelling as a way to connect people to real pressing social issues of our time. And towards the end of 2019, right before the pandemic hit in 2020, I was doing some work of that nature and felt like I wanted to scale impact in a more exaggerated way. And film and story had always been sort of this North Star for me in terms of driving social change. And I believe it's still a really important component. But when I took a step back and sort of looked at decision makers, whether decision makers, in different sort of power structures, whether that person was a CEO of a company or an elected official or a parent running a household budget, no matter how altruistic individuals are, we're all faced with sort of the demands of our day, right? And no matter how well-intentioned we are or how much we want to do good in the world, at the end of the day, each of us make decisions based on economics. And I got really interested in, what it would look like to scale impact through business and through investments and through venture, and had connected with our CEO at New Theory Ventures, who is an incredible serial and social entrepreneur, who is a woman, also a young woman and a non-white woman, and had experienced firsthand how hard it is to scale business with only, at that time, it was 2.7 of all venture capital going towards women founders. And it's actually gone down over the past couple of years. I think last year it was 1.9. So she had experienced sort of firsthand what I think all women experience, is that in sort of every power structure in the world, and in the majority of spaces that we occupy, we are consistently underrepresented, underfunded, and underestimated. And she built New Theory Ventures as one way to help level that playing field and redistribute dollars and therefore power to women and diverse entrepreneurs and founders. She also is sort of deeply committed to scaling impact. So joined forces with her and now have the pleasure to serve as the COO for her company, and work in partnership with her to make sure that, the companies that we're incubating and spinning up here within New Theory Ventures, as well as the companies that we do more passive investments into, are also kind of harnessing their power to influence change. So that's my journey, and I'd be happy to share more about the types of companies that we invest in.
Oh, thank you, Heidi. It sounds absolutely incredible. And yes, and I think the VC funds money going to female-led companies is around 2%. So at the moment, so that's really a depressing fact, isn't it? So what is New Theory Ventures doing about that? Give us an example.
Well, I think I shared a little bit about the types of founders that we invest in. We invest in a couple of different ways. We're an evergreen fund. Some of our investments are more passive. So, we're one of a number of folks on the cap table. And some of those companies are wellness and beauty, also fintech and legal tech and ag tech. We just invested in agriculture last year in a hydroponic farm company, which is really exciting given, the kind of issues and challenges we face around the environment and climate. And then we also invest significantly in companies that are conceptualized and either fully or majority financed by New Theory Ventures. One of those is a company called Wild Elements, which currently is a media platform at wildelements.com, and will go to market in a couple of different business sectors later this year. I can't share too much about it right now, but the sort of goal of Wild Elements is to connect individuals to their personal wellness in a way that is also connected to planetary wellness. So there are decisions that each of us make every day that not only affect our own personal health, but also the health and longevity of the planet. And so in a really sort of fun and engaging and lifestyle first approach, that's what we're doing through Wild Elements.
Incredible, Heidi. I can't wait to figure out more about that.
Yeah, they're
Heidi,
exciting.
what do you think is your main motivator in this role?
I think for me, in this role and probably all roles that I've had, I believe that to whom much is given, much is required. And I think that's always been a driving force for me and my life. I think, the nature of being a white woman in America, I probably circumstantially have it better than 90%, if not more, of the world. And with that, I want to make sure that I'm doing something that helps change circumstances for the better, for people who didn't hit that birth lottery, for lack of better explanation. So for me, it really is about using the positions that I'm in and also sort of taking positions, right? Like the positions that speak to me are ones in which I can influence more positive outcomes for individuals, but also for kind of the macro too. And yeah, that for me is the motivating factor. I became a mom a couple of years ago as well. And so I feel like that has only made that motivation more pressing, like really wondering what planet our children are going to live on in 30 years if we do nothing. And the exciting part is there's so much innovation. Technology is so inspiring. The individuals, the young entrepreneurs that I meet with that are innovating just out of the box solutions is awe-inspiring. And so to be a part of those conversations and in some cases also investments is a motivating factor for me, for sure.
Thank you for sharing that, Heidi. I love that. What would you say is your superpower, Heidi? What makes you good at what you do? I mean, you have so much passion and dedication for sure, but tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, passion, dedication, hard work, right? Those things are irreplaceable. I would say my superpower is bringing vision to life. I am a great operator and great at execution. And I feed off of sort of seeing ideas turn into reality. And I think even though I've worked in pretty different sectors and, worked in Hollywood and worked in government and now working in finance, the through line there is really being able to envision game-changing ideas or work with individuals who are envisioning game-changing ideas, and then kind of work backwards and build a plan and start to implement.
Just listening to you makes me super excited, Heidi. What would your top tips be for other women, Heidi? Maybe women who are, looking for investment.
Don't take no for an answer. And what I mean by that is you're going to get many no's, not a little bit, but many no's. Don't stop. Don't let it thwart you. Don't let it wane your enthusiasm. People say after what is it? The final no came the yes that changed the world, right? Especially for people who have forward thinking and progressive ideas. A lot of times those theories aren't proven out yet, or they aren't proven out at scale. And, investors, there are many investors who love to invest in Series A or later, but don't have the risk appetite for pre-seed, seed, pre-revenue companies, but just keep looking, keep putting yourself out there and be a really aggressive networker. I think especially for women, we're told from such a young age, like almost to speak when spoken to. That's culturally, I think, in a lot of different cultures and countries, the subliminal training that we get. And I would say just everybody you talk to, ask for 3 more introductions, and just be really diligent and persistent in your outreach and pitching and meetings.
Thank you for these great tips. Heidi, what are your plans or dreams for your future?
Well, Stephanie, we just sold a house and bought a house and are in the process of moving. So I'm a little bit, looking 10 feet ahead right now. But what I'm super excited about and kind of toying with building on is in the same way that a lot of venture is funneled towards men, particularly white men. The dollars also predominantly, at least here in the United States, flow towards California and New York. But as we know, innovation comes from everywhere, every zip code, every corner of the country and the world. And I'm increasingly excited about identifying with innovators and entrepreneurs in medium-sized markets, not just, the New Yorks and the Californias of the world, but there's such exciting work happening in my home state of Virginia. There's really incredible work happening in Michigan, in Oklahoma, in Colorado, across the United States. We're seeing so many brilliant ideas not only come to fruition, but develop product market fit and start to generate revenue for their investors, but also really, really increase social change. And so I'm sort of increasingly excited with connecting with founders and entrepreneurs in those medium markets, and hopefully we'll start to work with more public officials as well as private investors to increase investment into those spaces.
I love that you do that, Heidi. It's so important to distribute the dollars or the pounds or whatever more widely and not just in the obvious places. Well, thank you so much for this talk. It was super inspiring.
Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it, and I'm excited to connect with the She Can community.